This is Alex Steele's final semester project. I chose to make a simple stereo volume meter, or a VU meter. What this will basically do is sense the analog signal from a 3.5 millimeter jack coming from my cell phone right now out of the board, and the LEDs will then show up. This is very similar to what you would see on old stereos. So my first prototype was basically making a 12 LED strip using all 12 inputs and one resistor to the ground. And initially this was done without using a potentiometer. The audio signal in is a 3.5 millimeter jack that's been split. Only the right channel is used. I used the right channel going into input A0 because it gave a little bit more bass to it. But here is a simple VU meter with only the 12 LEDs. I will keep the music lower just to make sure I don't break any copyright issues. But as you can see, when music is played, the LEDs will lit based on the value of the audio input coming in. From here, I chose to go a little bit further and looked for projects that included a potentiometer, which would allow the sensitivity of the LEDs to be adjusted. And also I created an array of LEDs with 12 different rows of 9 LEDs each. Now, here's my final setup with the potentiometer in place on a board. Unfortunately, I had to run all new wires and run a separate ground for it, which is why this ground is loose. I was having a grounding issue, and all my rows of LEDs, which are all run each row in parallel together and then out to each individual input. My main issue with this was that the potentiometer that I used had a lot of noise with it, so the sensitivity of the potentiometer was quite near the top of the potentiometer. I did try and buy a coil one, which came here, but was unable to get those to work in time. So here is the use of the same VU meter, but now with the stereo volume where it's at, I can now adjust the sensitivities in the potentiometer to turn it up and make more LEDs light up. And right there I'm at full use of the potentiometer. And as I lower it down, I can bring it all the way down, and that's their minimum right there. This can also all be adjusted within the pot value of the program, which will be seen when looking at the Arduino program for it. So from here, I wanted to go another step farther and look at another type of program that I might be able to use, which was called a peak hold. And what this peak hold function does is, one, it eliminates the potentiometer, so that will no longer do anything. But what this will do is it will hold one row of LEDs when it hits that peak, depending on the signal coming in. All the wiring is the same, and as you can see now, you get a pretty cool effect when using the peak hold. This is all done through a mathematical equation that takes the number of readings in from the analog signal and then looks at those readings and puts it through a value equation, and then decides which LEDs and how many LEDs we're going to light up, anywhere from 2 to the 13, which built this way we have the certain rows, and also brightness is put in there too. Finally, I wanted to create a program where I would be able to choose between the potentiometer and the peak hold function by using a button press to go in between the two different functions, but was unable to finish that. This programming will be included, but it was not finished, obviously, so there won't be as many notes to it. But this is the final project, and it's pretty simple. All the YouTube videos that I used will be included in the write-up, and anybody could do this with just some simple time and some patience and a soldering iron and a little bit of work. And this is my final project. Thank you.